All right, I think we are ready. It is at the hour, I guess the half hour, so we're going to get started. I would love it if everyone who gets on that I am managing here a little bit would make sure you're muted, so that way I don't have any background noise as I'm trying to do this, this training here. So I really appreciate that. And if anyone has any questions, please make sure that you can put them in the comments. If for some reason I don't get to it, please, I promise if I miss it for whatever reason, I will come back around and contact you personally, or you can also put it in the non-diet counseling skills and decoding group if you like. So, all right, I see that I think we're ready to go here and get started. So we are going to talk today about 3 strategies, possibly 4 or more, that us non-diet coaches and dietitians can use to help clients through letting go of weight loss wishes and hesitancy to recover. And the way we do that is through deepening our decoding and unpacking skills for client progress and our professional satisfaction. And we'll see what other goodies would come up with today as well. All right, so my name is Tracy Brown. I call myself a somatic nutrition therapist. I'm a registered dietitian. I've been working with non-diet, kind of a non-diet coaching sort of capacity for over 13 years now. And I have my own recovery to kind of boot with that, and tons of training and supervision. So we'll talk a little bit about all of that. If you are on live right now, please make sure you go to the settings and mute yourself if you don't mind. I mean, I can do that for y'all, but I will go ahead and do it real quick for everyone. So I appreciate that. Okay. All right, so let's kind of jump in, and well, we will get rid of the screen here. Sorry about that. Okay, what we're going to talk about is, you all probably know a lot about motivational interviewing if you don't already, but we are going to talk about how we're going to combine that with learning to track our client's body and what they're saying behind their food and body image, like their food and body talk. Because when our clients feel more safe, they grow, they take risks more likely, they trust us more, that kind of thing. So if you hear background noise in my life as well, you know, I know it's all a certain time of day here. So again, I want to make sure everybody's muted. That would really help me a lot. Kind of keep moving faster. All right. Make sure my slides are working here. Okay, here we go. All right, so we're going to navigate our clients' worries about health and how we can actually improve body trust without forcing their bodies to lose weight. And because if we can help them do that, they get out of that looping of shame and behaviors I might be struggling with. And I want you all to get some access to some important decoding skills, because you might not even know what this word means. You may never have heard of it before. I do see some familiar faces or numbers here on the info. So some of you know about this already. Some of you are already using it. So this will be a good review and refresher for you. But I think it's really important to help our clients understand what I feel fat means, what the deeper meaning of that is. And I think that's part of our job as dietitians and coaches. And I also, because I've been a part of, I've been a part of 2 other people's private practices, and I've started 2 of my own private practices from scratch. So I want to make sure that and you don't have to be a private practice oriented person to benefit from this information, but I want to make sure if this is something you're especially interested in, that I really think it's important to not compare and despair about your own business or practice. It is scary. But just like we get our clients not to compare about their body sizes compared to others, we don't want to do that in terms of business as well. to anybody else. So.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more crafty hacks and ideas.
Okay, I'm sorry, I hear somebody's stuff. Can you please, I don't want to mute everybody here. I'll just mute all. Okay, got it. Okay, I got everybody muted so I don't have to hear that. Sorry about that. All right, let's keep going. That's part of being live, right, you guys? So it's just not recorded. Pre-recorded at least. All right, so this training is for you if you're a dietitian, you're almost a dietitian, you're a coach, and you really want to help people at a really deep level dismantle their diet culture beliefs. And you want people to be free, just like maybe you're listening to this and you've gotten free, and you want them to get out of being trapped with body bashing beliefs as well. And this is something I think all of us new people, and we're all new in some way. Like, you know, I've been doing really deep trauma integrated work now for a really good 7 years, but really deeply the last 2 or 3. And we always get worried about, like, am I going to say the right thing or do something wrong? But especially at the beginning when you're switching from like the old model of like giving advice, we want to just build a bigger toolkit. And because our clients are really going to cling to what the world says about what's acceptable unless we help them know they have a safe and doable option. And because they're really entrenched and they feel like they can't stop, and they're coming to us for that. So, and I also want to recognize real quickly here is that, you know, before we go on with this, I want to be really on all full transparency. I'm going to talk about some training I'm doing coming up here in a couple of weeks. So just to put that out there, I mean, there's no pressure to do anything, but I want you all to know what's possible, what we didn't learn in coaching training programs and our undergrads in nutrition, our interns, you know, internships to be a dietitian. And I want you to start thinking, like, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you actually want to see in your work counseling with clients, you know, especially with eating disorders, diet, trauma, body image issues, or even like that combo of how do I, you know, the person has diabetes, how do I do intuitive eating? I've got both hands up here to share this. So, you know, when people come to me for supervision or they're new in their practice, they just want to feel, they don't realize they need this until they start working with clients. It's like, oh, I feel really uncomfortable with people's really uncomfortable feelings. And I realize that if I'm going to help people, I need to be able to go deeper with that and to actually just have more comfort. I want you to be excited, actually, when your client says, I feel fat. Like when they tell me that, I'm like, oh yeah, let's go, let's do it. And I'm excited because I know that they're giving me an open door to, like, let's decode this to understand that, like, no matter if you weigh 80 pounds or 500 pounds, when people say I feel fat, that's a whole lot different than actually what the size of their body looks like. And I want you to have a lifetime of tools. You know, my clients come in like, I want to have a toolkit. I want to know how to use this worksheet in what situation. And I want you to be able to mix and match your tools. That way it's like you're not feeling like I have to follow a certain formula. So it's really important. So what I know with the pain of all this, of not knowing honestly what the heck I was doing, and how I moved from all food and weight obsession to being a somatic nutrition therapist that's, I like to say I'm pretty humble, but I'm also pretty confident that, you know, I had to shift gears from feeling like that I was never good enough. And at first that came through my eating disorder as you know, a teen and a young adult. And this definitely, like, not healing all this, like, kind of perfectionism and constantly trying to get people to like me. This definitely leaked over at the very beginning of my professional career. Long after eating disorder was over, I needed tools to not only work with, like, there's one thing to be recovered from eating disorder and understand what it was like, but to actually know how to counsel somebody. You can't just do it with, like, here's a book about intuitive eating. You really got to know how to use certain, some people need more goal-oriented stuff. Some people need a lot of process. Some people just need to be in, like, all you got to do is regulate and stuff relationship for a while, and you got to know when to do what. So honestly, just like when I was in Dietland, I was seeing the mentors that were older than me doing this for a while, and I feel like, oh my gosh, like, I'm not going to ever be good enough. And we got to move away from that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later today. And I remember that I got into information overload at some point, and I got pretty overwhelmed, and I wasn't really doing my best work with some clients because I was trying to do too much for the skills I had. And so I had to learn. Okay, so why all this matters to you is that a lot of that let's just our clients do, you might be trying really hard to get people like you to do a good job. And if you have any kind of emotional or physical sensitivity, it's really easy to get overwhelmed, burnout, and trying too hard. And I want to really teach you all about like how to, again, know how to have a certain, we have our intuitive eating principles and all those kind of things, and we also have our nutrition knowledge, but we really need to learn how to go a little deeper with some of that. Okay, so something had to change, and basically the bottom line is, just like I had to move away from that old kind of understanding of how to like get people, instead of trying to get people like me so they will follow my advice or my instruction, learn how to be grounded and present in myself, so I could, mirror that for them. Right. So a lot of my breakthrough came really is trying to surrender that old way of doing things and learning how to get really, really uncomfortable or comfortable with being uncomfortable. And all this is important to you because all the stuff that you once have struggled with, or that you're struggling with now, getting your practice going, or how to even do all this stuff, it's really the same situation our clients are in. We can't really be talked out of it. We need to feel safe with some new tools. And so we are going to talk today about decoding and helping you make meaning out of everything that they're saying and knowing how to go deeper with that versus getting stuck. Okay, I'm going to put a few little not full case studies, but a few little miniature case studies, because I would love to see you all in, let's say, course of 3 months or 6 months, start getting more of these in your inbox. Okay, so I had a client who, she labeled herself as obsessive compulsive. Definitely don't diagnose, and I certainly don't label, but I want you to start getting these kind of things in here. When you have a person who's really struggling with calorie counting and they know better and they hate it, I want you to be able to have enough tools to be able to start getting emails like this, that people are moving from like, I can't stop calorie counting, to I actually trust. And this was a very intellectually based client. And I want you all to have time to read this, because I don't want to it's kind of weird to read things that people write to you and about you. So I'm just being really transparent about that it's kind of weird to read things that people send you, but it's very humbling, and I attribute it all to some of the things that we're going to be talking about today. So why am I going to talk about this stuff? Is simple. My calling and my passion is help people. So whether it's other professionals or our clients, I want to help people move fully through healing their relationship with food and weight. And our clients, the people that want to work with us, we know that their calling isn't to be the thinnest person in the room and trying to earn love that way, but I want you to be able to articulate all of that to them and help them have that. Not because you're a savior or I'm a savior, but because we know how to hold the space for them and help them discover that. I bet you all, I know sometimes we're all in this little bubble feeling like there's so many non-diet dietitians or coaches or whatever. In reality, there's lots more than there was from, that I know of. I've been doing this work 13 years. There's way more than there were, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I started 13 years ago, but that still doesn't mean there's enough of us. So it's really important to me that you all feel confident in the spheres of influence that you're around. And I want you to be the person in your area that can provide high quality, in-depth access, and you get it for people in your community. And I'm passionate about teaching you how to help people heal their internalized shame and fat phobia. They see it as normal. You know how it's normal, but we want to be like this stand for them that it's actually, it's normal, but that doesn't mean it's good for us. So what we're going to talk a little bit more about, now that we're kind of through some of that intro stuff here, is that we are going to, again, talk a lot more about motivational interviewing. And I'm going to go through this slide a little slowly because the next couple. The reason, a lot of you may have taken some motivational interviewing training. I hope you have. I know I got I think I got zilch when I went to school. It was just about, food journaling and advice giving and have a nice day. And most of our clients expect that. And so we want to be happily surprising them that we know how to actually listen and change roles. And that's something I teach a lot in my trainings, is we have to adapt. So one client may need a teacher. One client may basically need a mother figure. Another client in those moments may need something totally different. And it's not that we are totally changing our style and what we're going to teach, but we need to show up the way we need it. So if you have a client that is very intellectually driven, probably talking to them about how is this all making you feel isn't going to like land with them that much. We have to be able to give them information first, but still in a non-diet, challenging their paradigm way. When I say challenging, not challenging in like a negative way, but like say, hey, I hear that you feel like it's irrelevant what your body feels, and you mentally just need to follow the right formula, and that you'll, be fine, and you won't have any worries about food. But I'm wondering, just based on the science that we have, and you share some stuff. Now, some clients, that is not going to be a match for them at all, and they could care less. And in fact, if you go too heady on them, they might even shut down because they don't feel heard or seen at all. And they may need to just kind of talk about their day for the first 20 minutes of a session. And we need to be okay with that. We need to know like when to move along, and then be able to notice in their body if they're feeling seen and heard enough, when to say, okay, so what brings you here this session, and what do you feel like you want to work on today? And knowing when and how to do that. Okay, and what else we're going to talk about as we go along. So anybody who's watching this later, please go back and watch, right now with the 15-minute mark. So please go back from the beginning, because we've already been talking about some tips and tools already. I don't want you to miss anything, so please go back. I want you to be able to navigate your clients' worries about health, if their health can actually improve with body trust versus trying to force their body to lose weight, because we know this continues, this looping and shame, and they think it's their fault when we know it's not. Okay, what we're also going to discover, and I don't know why this is all wonky. There we go. Okay. This is going to be like the bread and butter of this training, and I'm going to be giving you some free stuff, essentially. I mean, about like maybe some stuff you've never used before. Maybe you've heard of, but you know how to use it. So I'm going to give you a little tidbit. I can't really do that in the course of give you exactly how to do the whole thing, because it takes a full hour in itself to describe how to use this in different circumstances. But I want to introduce the concept of, I want you to understand what decoding is, and to understand when your client says, I feel fat, or I can't not go to the drive-thru or the grocery store and get the candy, get the food, get whatever. I want you to understand that like that is deep and meaningful. And we want to understand how to help our clients decode all this stuff, including their food cravings, because they feel like if they could just get more control over all this, that they would feel better. And we know that like it's just a symptom. Something really important to me as well, again, like I talked about at the very beginning, what we talk about is I want everyone to stop comparing where they're at in their journey and their business, or whether you have 0 clients or you're somewhere in the middle of getting your business going, but you just need more skills, or you want to take things more online, whatever your goal is, to learn to stop comparing, get really focused, and know who exactly you need to be talking to and how you need to do it and how they need to hear from you. This is something that I want you all to be thinking about. Okay, and this is a topic that I know there seems to, for some reason, to be a lot of like, ooh, good or bad about, but I use food journals quite a bit, but I do them in a very specific kind of do no harm way, because my clients find that this is a doorway in to teach their clients, or teach them themselves how to non-judgmentally see what's happening, not just with their food, but with their life. And I mean, not all food clients should food journal. There are certain circumstances they shouldn't. But when you teach people to do this, quote unquote, a way that's not triggering, it's really helpful, and they move forward faster. Okay, so why do I think decoding and non-diet counseling skills are for all dietitians and coaches? Yes. Even if you don't work with eating disorders, probably that's why you're here. But if you happen to be a different kind of dietitian that doesn't do much eating disorder work, but you still want to do non-diet work, this stuff is important. All right, so I want to talk about, these are, honestly, I'm going to just print both up here. I want to talk about these examples. So why knowing how to be a non-diet dietitian and coach is really important, because I know you all may not be able to raise your hands that are watching this live or on the replay, but we're often going to bump up against cases here where people feel like they have to be in a smaller body to be competitive, whether it's athletics, whether it's acting, performance, whatever. And so I had this client who honestly, intuitive eating changed her life. She barely, and when I say she hasn't lost a pound, she probably lost honestly less than 5 pounds in the course of my 6 months working with her. And by the way, I want to let you all know that I usually work with clients anywhere between 6 months and 2 years. That's pretty normal, but I rarely have somebody who's less than 6 months because we go into the depths of things. And some people, again, depending on the intensity of what they need to unpack and how much ego strength they have, how much or little trauma they have, whatever's going on, depends on the time. Now, of course, I have a few clients I've worked with for many, many, many years, kind of sometimes on and off, depending on their circumstances and their stability. But for the most part, that's the range. And if you're not experiencing that, we need to talk, because there's a lot dietitians and coaches could do beyond going through 10 steps of intuitive eating. If you're just doing that, you are missing out on some really deep relational work with people that I want you to know about. But anyway, this client, she was just convinced that she wasn't getting roles. This client I saw over 12 years ago, so I think it's been long enough to talk about her a little bit more, and she won't mind. I've talked to her about this, but she was in the New York stage scene, and she was convinced she wasn't getting the role she wanted because she was in a larger body. And the truth is that she was spending so much freaking time on dieting and over exercise, or just like screw it and binging, that it was shaking up so much time and really just seeping away her self-worth and her confidence. And once she decided, I know how to diet, I can always go back to it, let's try this. And within the course of 6 months, she learned how to become an intuitive eater. And she kind of had like an all or nothing relationship with movement. And just by unpack some of these diet thoughts of like, I can never be successful, and success means what my body looks like, and really helping her get to the root of that, even within this world that kind of sometimes repeats that. When she started to build up the intrinsic kind of self-worth, just by actually getting more confident with her own relationship with food, she started getting accused of weight loss, which was funny because she hadn't lost hardly any. She didn't care that much at all. She started getting more roles. And I don't take credit for that. I just would take, just credit this process and learning how to help people unpack. And I bet a lot of you also work with people maybe who've had gastric bypass. So I get quite a few people in that situation, usually around the 10-year out mark. People are still recognizing they're struggling with disconnected eating. And we can certainly help these clients get back to their own nutrition needs. And that's where food journaling is really important, because you help to like really get clear about people's unique food and nutrition needs without it being the old recipe around like, these kind of clients have to eat a certain way their whole lives. Well, it's like, their signals might be a little changed, but we can learn what that is for them too. And by giving people hope that their body isn't forever undiscernible, they can have some peace. So again, that stuff's really important. So what do you all need for as much confidence in delving deep into these kind of topics? I want you to be willing to take risks, not just give advice, but really be able to like, I'll just give you some examples real quick, is that being able to, like, when people come in with your food and say, how was your week and what's happening with your food? And they say, good or bad, you're able to like go through one of those days. I actually ask them like, well, this is something that, again, that I kind of share in my training, but I'll share with you now, is that like, ask people if they don't have a place they have an agenda about, you want to say, hey, so what's been happening this week with your food? If they don't have any other agenda, and they go, I don't know, I don't really know what I want to work with. It's like, well, let's say we could even talk about a day that you felt like went really well, and let's draft us on some of that success and see how that happened. Or you might feel like it feels more important to look at a day where you felt kind of overwhelmed or a little stuck, or there's something more you need to know. So that's what I want you to have confidence doing. You don't need to always know. I want you to have confidence in this. You don't always need to know everything that's going to happen, but we do want to know, especially from that first session, which I'm going to talk a ton about in my training, is that the first couple sessions are your kind of like your information gathering gold mines of what kind of stance they need to take with this kind of client. All right. Another little thing here. I don't know. And why this is so important. I talked just now about the first session. One of their linchpins in your work is going to be able to really, really, really quickly, depending on the person, help them feel safe. And sometimes that's going to be talking about the predictable consequences of food and weight restriction. Sometimes it's going to be about accessing what their strengths are really quickly. But this is something really important. Again, I want you to be able to get these kind of comments from your clients that, like, at the end of the session, that they feel like it wasn't as scary as I thought they were going to be. And this client in particular said, she was like, I'm not crazy. Once I realized that dieting makes me think and worry more about food and more emotion, it's almost like the more I try to control my food, the more out of control with my emotions and my food I get. And that's really important. And in fact, I just want to share something. I think, how many hours? It was like 3 hours ago, I worked with my last client of the day. And she was so scared to do the call, she couldn't do the video call we had. I do, most of my work is virtual. And she was so scared she had to do the phone because she'd already worked with a dietitian, already worked with a therapist. And it just felt, the way that things were being asked of her, it felt intrusive and it didn't feel goal-oriented enough. So you see already, sometimes our clients come in with already not so great experiences. And so you really want to listen to that. What was difficult about like those other, and it's not always about the other people, don't get me wrong, but you want to listen. You really want to find like, what was difficult about that? And she showed me about it. So I really had to kind of mold how I asked my questions. And this person tended to be a little bit drier sense of humor. She was kind of like, she really respected people being straight up. So we did that, but also in a way that wasn't overly confronting of making her make food changes too quickly. So those are some things, again, I want you to keep in mind as you work with people. All right. So we're still going into some of the counseling skill stuff here that I think are really important for you to talk about. So again, motivational interviewing combined with learning to track, which I just gave you a little example of. So just a quick review for all y'all. I don't know how long you've been out of school, what kind of training you've had since you've been out of school. I wasn't taught motivational interviewing. The only way that I recognize that the way I was taught without that was just kind of not very helpful, is that I had been through recovery. And I knew that, like, just being able to like get a food recall wasn't going to cut it to help somebody make peace with food. We need a relationship. And so, of course, like I said, this doesn't work with advice giving, doesn't work for people with diet trauma and eating disorders. We need to learn. If you're already doing this, oh my gosh, I want to hug you. But if you're not, think about, like, instead of, I rarely use the word why. I mean, if I use the word why, it comes out maybe once a month. That's how little I use it, because I want to keep everything as open as possible. And as I ask these questions, I'm also watching the client and their body and what happens. I know this is way more advanced training about how to track like nervous systems and dissociation, all that kind of stuff. But, that will be taught, but in later stuff. But it's really important that you practice the language of how, what, when, and remember to always include both and, because our clients desire freedom, but they're also really scared of it as well. They're scared of what would happen if they get it, or what would happen in their lives if they get it. So always kind of keep that in mind. It's not always getting the answer and keeping things open, but also holding the tension of like how much vulnerability they can share with you. And if you can notice that there, you can always ask, like, I'm kind of noticing that, like, when you mention that you want to change your food, I can also kind of see and feel a little that you kind of seem a little smaller. Tell me where that happened in that conversation. That's where the juice starts to come, when you're combining these kind of questions that elicit a response with body noticing. Okay, so how do we do all this? Like, how do we even get to those kind of questions? Is use food journals, unpack food journals. We want to work with people's hesitance. We want to decode, which we're going to talk about in a minute. We want to talk about radical self-care, which sometimes is simply like they showed up for your session and that's their self-care. Also, but radical responsibilities, like they show again for these sessions even though they're scared. And uncoupling, again, that's more of an advanced concept and tool and thing to learn. But uncoupling is where that I will talk more about in the training, how you're uncoupling like a negative thing with food and coupling with something positive. So we're uncoupling eating more food with being out of control with like coupling it with maybe that you in the session you eat with them and they feel safe. So all those, that's one example. And I'm gonna put both these examples up. All right, so I'm gonna go with the health stuff because I think sometimes it's a little, I think we believe that if we do health at every size work or non-diet work, that it's easier just with somebody trying to eat a bigger variety of food or eat more food or eat emotionally less. But I mean, again, we're all gonna work with people who have more complex situations, diabetes, fibromyalgia, IBS, and trying to recover from diet trauma. So this is an example. How I did. So Sarah was somebody who had really long-standing diabetes and had been pretty out of control for the last, and when she came to see me for the couple of prior years before this, because her body was changing and the doctors were all like, you gotta lose weight. So she tried to. She was just trying to be a good quote-unquote patient. And she was doing what they told her to do, and it was causing binging, essentially. Her eating disorder started because of trying to diet to, her diabetes really wasn't that badly controlled or managed, but because of her weight, you guys get the story. You know what's going to happen here is that she came to me because she'd been trying to do what they wanted her to do for 2 years, and it was just making her weigh more and her A1C higher. And how we even get started with this is as an example of everything we just talked about is, how do we get there? How do we help person have stop binging and restricting and get their A1C better? For her, the linchpin thing was, and I had to learn this about her, what she needed. Oh, I think I have a question. I will come back to that in a second. Is how do we accomplish this? For her, because she had her body trust had been so eroded by being pressured to lose weight, we started to use a who says dialogue. We did a lot of role playing to keep her connected with her own inner wisdom and her personal eating and body experiences, despite the pressure from her doctor. So her doctors didn't really ever let up on the weight loss lectures. She just learned to okay, hear him say that. I know that's his paradigm. Who says I have to do that? What's my experience? What's going on with my body? And we did this a lot. I mean, we did this for many, many months, so she felt strong in it herself. And that's something that you all can learn how to do as well. So for example, I know this is really too small. This is as big as I could get it without it being messing up the slide. Okay, so bear with me. But this is what I want to teach you all how to do. If you see that on the left-hand side, you'll see their food, the times. In the middle, you see the hunger fullness. I use a 0 through 10 scale. And in my programs, I teach people how to use, really discern what all these numbers mean, what it means from a calorie perspective, how this stuff has changed with maybe what the food is. And I think coaches can do this. So if you're not a dietitian, I don't want you all to be scared to do this, because you can learn how to do this because you're not teaching MNT. I trust that the coaches out here aren't doing medical nutrition therapy. And in fact, I don't really do a ton of it either. Even when I have a client who maybe needs some of that, I might have them working with somebody else because I do a lot of online coaching. So, or, if they know the ins and outs of how to manage their situation themselves, they're just trying to stop restricting, binging, they got diet trauma, they got other kind of trauma that we're working with. It's like that. They know how to get around back to the nutrition stuff that's important to them. Now, if it's a local client, client in my state or other states that I'm licensed, then I do that kind of stuff. But anyway, in this check-in on the right-hand side, you'll see I really ask people just as important as what's happening with the food is what's happening in their inner dialogue, their body dialogue, their dialogue with their food. I call it the food and body talk, what's actually happening. And I teach people how to unpack these journals. And sometimes a food journal review can last the full session. We're talking a lot of time of it. All right, so this is another journal that's a little different because I always allow people to do journaling however they want. They can use a paper journal. They can create their own journals. This is a different client. What's interesting about this, it's a tale of, sometimes our clients are feeling really good and their food journals can be the tale of 2 days. Things are going good, their hunger fullness is right on. I know you can't read these comments. Maybe you can, because but it's pretty small and squished, and this is as big as I could get it. But eating from, it's interesting. This client had gotten to the place in her work where she can uncouple that she could feel a certain thing in her body, in this person's body, feeling good, feeling satisfied, all that. And then started, she was able at this point doing these journals, how she could, articulate when things shifted, and like the first part of the morning feeling good about her food. And then when she went to the beach and saw her body, the body comparison started to trigger this badness and wrongness in her about her size, which was about so much deeper stuff that we'll talk about. We don't have time to talk about it here, but you get to get in with your clients because of the doorway in, just by them journaling the stuff. You don't have to like overly work too hard to help them more quickly unpack like what the trigger was about. And sometimes it's in your scope of practice to work through it with them. Sometimes it's above your pay grade and you're making sure the therapist is helping them with that. It just depends on the circumstance. But certainly if it's about food and body, we should be going there. And this is the second part of her journal where she was talking about that happened and how that happened as she was kind of processing along the day, even her own thoughts, that she was having basically some old, I hate to say this, I don't like to, a little bit of PTSD about being an OA. I'll just put it out there like it is, that like there were some struggles with like body stuff had triggered this old stuff from those meetings that wasn't working for freedom for her. So anyway, I just want to put that out there, that I wouldn't have known this stuff unless she put it in her food journal, which gave us opportunity for her to get some safety and some containment and really some processing about it. So that's why that's so important. All right, so that's why food journal review in a very motivational interviewing way, in a very depth unpacking kind of way, can really, change your practice around. It's amazing. All right, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about the other this is the second of three little main points I wanna make. So time-wise, I know I'm gonna have to kind of step it up. So bear with me, I'm gonna go a little faster now. But I could talk about this stuff for hours, so I apologize. So how do we help our clients let go of weight, the focus on, let me repeat that, let go of weight and focus on health. So we know that's what we want our clients to do. They kind of might know about that, or they might not, but imagine what's going to happen if you just straight up said that to them the first session. We've got to work our way into health at every size, and helping our clients know what else is possible. So what do you think a person would say, or a new client would say the first or second session if you said the statement, like, just let go of weight and focus on your health? You're going to hear this, right? But don't I have to lose weight to be healthy? And do you know how to unpack this without feeling like, like nervous, scared, shaky, I want to throw up? A client, if you said this, a client might say, yeah, no, I shouldn't care. So shame trigger. Or it could be, but if I don't stop obsessing about my weight and make it about health, I'll lose my identity and my specialness. These are all really typical things I guarantee are going to happen for you when we start talking about focusing on true health. Because health is a cover for like, I still need to get a smaller body. Sometimes it's confusion, like legitimate confusion about like, don't I have to be healthy? So you want to have your strategies there for how to do that. The other two are more emotion. And, I definitely want to make sure that you all know how to work that when it comes up. Okay. So you see this little sheet here. This is something that's in, back up. Sorry, people. This is something for, question number one. If a person asks like, with curiosity, don't I just need to like lose weight to be healthy? This is a sheet that I created a long time ago. The full version is in the training we'll talk about in a little bit. This is something I made to like kind of help people compare the reality of a traditional approach. This is a worksheet you could use probably within the first couple sessions. I would say I don't pull this out at the earliest the second session. Sometimes it's at the sixth session, like kind of down the line a little bit. And sometimes it's much later on when they're more ready for the idea of this. Sometimes we're really just still working on containment with either getting out of food deprivation or working with containment around binging, whatever. But they're not always ready for that. So this would help you with question number one. Number two is you're getting back more into the decoding things and to the food journal review that we talked about. Yeah, I know I shouldn't care. So some people know deep down that like their health is actually fine. It's just that they want to weigh less. because they either feel like this is the only way they can be special or feel safe. And sometimes that's a trauma related thing. Sometimes it's just a general being in this fat phobic culture. This is the only way I know how to maybe be less a part of a stigmatized group, And so those are things that like, it feels like you should go on and on about health at every size, but that's not what they need. They need that information in their back pocket to know like, yeah, I can focus on these things and I can be healthy. And a lot of clients will buy into this really, when I say buy in, they know this somewhere deep down that like genetic diversity exists. They might even know their labs are fine. They probably even know that they're physically healthy enough. It's not really what that's about. So when people are saying 2 and 3, we can already know that it's not totally about health. They need a little bit of this. But this one, we'll need this is where you're going to pull out your body respect book. This is where you're going to pull out your health at every size book and talk to them about that. Pull out some studies, share that with them. What do they think about that? What comes up for them? That kind of stuff. So just to make sure that like, like you're going to hear this stuff. This is really not about health. This is somewhat about there, but if you get through this and they go like, okay, yeah, I get it now, but I still want to lose weight, then that's where you're talking about, they didn't know that maybe there's more like 2 or 3 here for them. So just to clarify that for y'all. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the training that I'm here to share with you a little bit, but I appreciate this from one of the first go-rounds of the training that we're going to be talking about is that everything that I think goes with really, really solid foundation of non-diet, decoding, body image, unpacking kind of work. We need resources, we need education, but we also need to know how to get to work through client issues in a less didactic way, in a more like embodied practicing kind of way. And this is what Miss Molly here was talking about. So, all right, now we're going to do the last little part of our actual, here's the things I want you to be thinking about. So I appreciate everybody here has been live. If you came later, please go back and watch the first portions you missed, and that recording will be out tomorrow. Please make sure you watch it because we talked about a lot of stuff before you even got on. So, all right, this is kind of actually my wheelhouse. So I'm going to be brief about it, even though I could talk about this, and we actually talk about food decoding for an entire month. In the training I'm going to talk about, which means we talk about decoding I feel fat, body image stuff, desires to lose weight, food cravings, food restrictions, what that means, and how to teach a client how to be good decoders for themselves. There is a total of live, let me think how many hours here, at least 12 hours of that. So it's intense, and you'll get as much as you want, essentially. So just to do a background of this, why I think this is so important, and this is the way I talk to my clients, it's, our culture assigns worth to what it believes is worthy. A culture that values thinness as more worthy can keep a person who has wounding around feeling loved or worthy, engaging in thoughts and behaviors, aka dieting to try to soothe that wound. So there's a very, very, very good reason why people get pulled into diet culture so easily, is that like, it's estimated like 50%, if not more, of the culture has like attachment wounds, meaning like some dysregulation around feeling like they got their needs met from infancy on. That's one of the reasons why we have such an epidemic of people with eating disorders and all that kind of stuff. And I know that like there are people that say, oh, I wasn't around diet culture, that wasn't the thing, but they had the wounding. And when you have wounding around feeling worthy enough, if you chronically feel not good enough, hypervigilant, like you don't matter, you can't escape that. Like, this is a way, trying to get your body smaller is a way to either feel less or to be less. So there's one less thing you got to worry about. And clients don't know that. They think that if I get a smaller body, I'll be happy. And so we are here to tip that on its head and to eventually come around to educate them about what I just talked about. You can't just jump right into that. You've got to, have it be very personal to them and their circumstances, and then generally talk about this is a super in and it makes sense given what we've experienced. So we all know, because I've been there, maybe some of you have been there, that thinness doesn't necessarily heal our inner wounds. It just keeps us on the surface of our lives. And us learning how to decode this I feel fat with our clients helps them move past it faster. And the reason that is because when we know how to decode what's really going on, it decreases people's stress. They don't feel so hopeless and out of control, and helps them become more emotionally resilient, which is what we want. I mean, that's actually the point of recovery, is that like we learn how to be more, we grow capacity for life, and we don't need food, whether it's restricting, binging, whatever, obsessing about food from an orthorexic standpoint, to feel like that we know where we stand. So I want to show you this little picture. I know it's small, you can't totally see what's going on here, but I have official sheets for what the worksheets, what this looks like in the training. But sometimes I just pull out a piece of paper and I have this process where we're processing, sometimes this takes a full hour, sometimes this takes 10 minutes of like, how can people use the flinch of I feel fat or I gotta eat, which it can feel out of control, binge eating, whatever. Using that as the doorway into, like, I tell my clients, every time you feel fat or you feel like you got to binge, recognize as I feel uncomfortable. And this takes the bad out of fat and the good out of thinness and neutralizes body size. So right there off the bat, we're teaching them like how we have overvalued and again, moralized body sizes is to mean certain things. And once people kind of see that that's what they were taught and there's a way out of that, they're able to do this process and see like, oh, I'm trying to deal with feelings that feel uncomfortable that have been coupled with my body. And we help people have a choice. So they have their left-hand choice, their right-hand choice. And, I teach people how to, unpack this, of course, in the training slower. So you know exactly why I'm doing all these different steps here. This is what an actual one looks like. This is somebody's I did a couple months ago. Now I usually save these. The clients have a copy, I have a copy, and I just keep it to show them how far they've come. Again, helps our clients become more resilient and aware and less vulnerable. This is the beauty. I mean, you are giving your clients such a big gift by being able to help them be less vulnerable to what everybody else in the whole wide world is thinking or saying around food, and they get to be more solid. Like clients, usually describe to me like there's this like solidness in themselves and they're grounded, and that's the kind of confidence they've been looking for their whole life through trying to get thinner. So, our clients, if we want to help our clients make peace with their bodies, we have to learn this process. I mean, it's just something I put together this training. I know it says 2018 on here, but I've tweaked it a bunch this coming week before this training here. So I just didn't change the dates, but I've had different versions of this presentation for a while now. And I do this because I see less and less that people are talking about this online. I see a lot of talk about, what do I do when a client is doing the process, but they're getting stuck on weight loss? And nobody's talking about like, you're getting stuck on their symptom. You're getting caught up in the attachment cry of like, oh, my weight. It's like when they say I feel fat or I got to lose weight, we need to get excited. We need to learn how to unpack that versus those clients getting frustrated and leaving because, we did 4 sessions or 6 sessions and they just kind of feel stuck and they leave. We got to offer them more. And I want you to recognize that when they say, I feel fat or I got to eat, it's code language for I feel uncomfortable and it's time to go there. I'm just sharing this because I had no idea that this is a client who'd seen many different kinds of people, and she's actually starting to be a dietitian herself. And she had so much, I would not say that she's actually depressed. She felt that way. I think she was in a little bit of hopelessness and like some functional freeze. But anyway, the decoding process is what shifted her whole way of managing how she felt, because she knew all the head stuff. She'd read the book Intuitive Eating. She'd done therapy, and nobody was really addressing this whole feeling like I feel like I'm a failure because it's overcoupling. She had this overcoupling with like emotions and body size and emotions and how she fed herself and so much shame. And once we started decoding this, she was able, I'll just read what she said. These methods help her, and they still help her to this day. And, again, she's going to be a dietitian. She may already be one at this point. And, this was the game changer for her, this decoding process. So we have talked a ton about, using food journals and like taking the intuitive eating process a little deeper with, with motivational interviewing and with a little bit of body tracking to help them see how this is all really actually a relational skill. So it's definitely a combo of like CBT, ACT, motivational intervening. And in this level, I drop in some somatic work, but that's doing all your practice from a somatic place. That kind of comes a little later. But first, we need to get these skills down if you're already doing this to help them dig deeper with what the food and the body are actually saying. So those journals, whether just verbally or on paper, really knowing how to unpack those gives you so much important information. So you all know how important it is to move the focus off the weight. But of course, our clients are going to be stuck there because they know, they don't have another framework for like, if I don't lose weight, I won't be healthy, or if I don't lose weight, I won't be lovable or acceptable. We got to teach them how to decode that with the I feel fat, decoding process, and stop trashing themselves and bring in some really true radical self-care to what is feeling like so much. And so lastly, I don't really have a slide for this. I just want to bring this up is that, I've been doing this a long time, but I was also very fortunate to jump. I don't really have a framework for what it would be like to do eating disorder or non-diet work without supervision. And so I've always done it just because somehow I knew inherently, like if I want to have longevity in this, if I don't want to get overly overwhelmed and burnt out, I'm going to need to figure out how to create a business that supports me. So I want you to know how to create a business that supports you. And just because if you're not in a private practice, that's fine. You could be working for an agency, another person's private practice, in a hospital setting, inpatient, whatever. This stuff is all really important because you being confident with your skills brings so much value to where you work. It's big time. Like, you're going to build your cred, essentially. People that know how to do these really in-depth counseling skills, I'll be really honest, they make themselves very valuable for whom they work for. And if you're in private practice, it does kind of set you above knowing how to do this stuff. So I want to make sure you know that, there's a lot of professionals who do this kind of work out there. I know it feels like that because we're in a bubble. We're always in the same Facebook groups and listservs and all that kind of stuff. But generally speaking, the world needs so many more of you knowing how to go deep with this stuff and not be scared to do it. So I hope you get this one thing from this training as we get ready to kind of wrap it up. Good. I'm not going to keep you guys too long tonight. I want you to recognize that I'm not an overnight success. I'm not. But I really freely share how I've done everything in the business part of the training we're going to talk about here in a minute, because I just, I've worked at 2 different private practices for a different dietitian, early in my career for a therapist, another, and then I've done local practices in 2 different places, like from scratch again, and then online. So there's no overnight success. And I want to teach you all how to, but not it take you 10 years to feel like that you have a sustainable private practice as well, if that's what you're wanting to do. What I can tell you for sure, and I want you to take this as actionable tonight, is the people who are consistently resourcing themselves. They figure out and they choose one way, at least in marketing, and if you pick one thing and you like get it cranking for yourself, you're going to make progress for sure. I just want to make sure you know that, like, don't try to do everything great. Don't try to go on every platform. If you are just focusing your local community first, do that and be like, I shared this with, there's somebody going to start the training here. She's already started, kind of like the pre-work. And I gave her a session to get going with her business. And, in doing some of the strategizing for her practice, it's like she had a lot of places in her community she was overlooking. And we often do that because we try to do everything and we don't know what's most effective because we've never done it. So right off the bat, I want you to all think about, like, where in your area, here's another free piece of advice. Where in your area locally, if you're only want to do online practice, that's totally fine. You can use this there for the 2. Where in your area are you missing an opportunity? I want you to just take some time to think about that tonight and tomorrow. And just like our clients need to learn that there's no bad body, there is no right way to have a business, to do a business. In fact, I highly encourage you, whether you work with me ever or not, that you think about how you want this business to be for you. So work it backwards. Like, how many clients do you want to be seeing, or even how much money do you want to be making, to be perfectly honest? And that will help you figure out like fees and what's accessible and how do you make that happen with a mix of groups and one-on-one and all that kind of stuff. So you don't necessarily have to do what everybody else is doing and do it the way they're doing it. Some of you who don't know me, obviously I teach professionals, but I work with a lot of one-on-one clients. I do groups, I sell programs, I sell like mini one-off, like little $5 and $10 and $20 things. So I try all kinds of things, and it all brings everything to the table, in terms of like creating a business that's worked for you. So how do you have a practice like this you love? Because I'll just be honest, to take a risk and know that like you don't have to know everything, but if you continue to push and you're hungry and you want to keep learning, just like our clients have to decide that it's okay to like what they want, and it's good to care less about what people think and honor our bodies. I want you to have the same kind of attitude around building your skills and your business. And just like we help our clients, I want you to be able to learn how to help your clients. So this is something I'll rephrase a little bit for you, is that I have a practice I love. And the reason is because of the statement. I get to help clients make peace by helping them unpack the function of dieting and binging and weight worries and body worries, and cultivate compassion, curiosity, safety, and courage to make this whole into a tuned eating thing a way of life, literally a tuned eating for a tuned living. That's why every day is so awesome. Even if I have a long day, or somebody's like in the pit of despair, it's like it's never a bad day. Sometimes it's more tiring than others, but it's never a bad day. And I don't feel like we're not getting somewhere, and I don't really always worry about like what's the right thing to do. It's because of these unpacking skills that we've been talking a little bit about tonight. So just like with our clients, I want you to think about, like, to build a practice you love, we need to slow down to get somewhere. So sometimes we try to like teach everything to our clients in 2 sessions. We shouldn't do that because they can't take it in. They can't process all that, because we get too anxious when things go too fast, or we try to do everything too much. Same goes for our businesses. So I'm saying this in total love and respect and non-ickiness, is that, I'll be honest, I did play around with having a private practice for a while before I started supervision. And I'll be honest, I got a lot of clients that weren't right for me, and I didn't know how to handle because I didn't have the skill level for them yet. And it's because I really just didn't know what I didn't know. And it took me a while. I actually did private practice before I started supervision, before I started working for somebody else for about a year, and I didn't get anywhere, and that was super disheartening. I have a few clients and they just weren't that great to work with. Or you can kind of seek out some people who've already got it kind of, when I say figured out, like at least have like a way that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So I started before that, a couple years before this, when I was 27. I'm 40 now. I've been doing this for this many years. And within the first year working, I had a full practice, and I want you all to have that too. And I essentially at that time was only working with people who were many, many, many years older than me and weren't that thrilled about having this youngster. They didn't take me all that seriously until some of their clients, their patients, like the doctors I work with, some of the older therapists that were hesitantly referring to me, saw me help some of these really entrenched clients get their stuff decoded and get out of their survival patterns. Once that started happening, it's like, okay, we can trust this girl. And that's what I want for y'all too. So that's what we're going to talk about, decoding and non-diet counseling skills here for the rest of the next, honestly, 5 minutes. So if you can hang in there with me for 5 minutes, if you're interested, awesome. Please listen to all this. If you're not, no harm, no foul. Please look at all the free stuff I've got. It's good deal. So this probably isn't for you if you don't really want to go deep with clients, and that's okay. I actually was thinking about this when I typed this, like, well, maybe not everybody wants that, but for those of you who do and who love deep, juicy work, yeah, you're going to want to stick around. If you believe that all you need to do is teach interviewing principles to people, you can do that, and that will definitely help some people, but there's so much more you can do, and this work could be so much even, and it was a double negative, but it could be so much more fun. And if you're not interested in getting some feedback about how you can grow. So the way I do my work, it's very, again, experiential. It's very hands-on. I don't just give people, here's some reading and you figure it out. It's like, no, here's some reading and how are we going to use this? And let's practice it together. Okay. So this is somebody who worked with me in this program last year. You might know her. Awesome sauce lady. This is one of the many, I think I've got maybe over 20 plus worksheets and counting that you can use with clients. But Lynn loves my decoding stuff, and that was new to her. And Lynn's been around the block. She's been in the mindfulness with food and health world for a long time. And so we did a lot of practicing with MI skills and a lot of the case studies. And I forgot to mention this, so don't let me forget, is that like, I share a lot of my own client sessions. So you get to listen to my sessions, how I unpack stuff. I didn't put any easy clients in the recordings here for this work. So just to let you know what to expect. These aren't going to be like, a 4-session kind of client. These are people who are entrenched and they need a lot of support. So the process is that you're going to learn how to guide people to end symptoms like lack of trust in their body, obsession with food, how to prevent emotional eating because of deprivation, because of health concerns or because of just chronic dieting, and let go of the fear that their health will be damaged if they don't lose weight. Like, that's what you're going to get, all of that. We're going to help you uncover their fears about health and weight and dive more deeply into why it's hard to let go of dieting. And going to help them hate their body less. And, people kind of like come here and they want to like have a better body image, but the jump is too far. It is totally too far to go from like, can't stand my body to love my body. But I have some practical ways to help them deal with, or, there's like practical tools to get from like body hatred up the body image ladder, I called it, or ruler, to like it minimally just body not being part of like this everyday conversation in their heads all the time. I always encourage people, I hope you love your body. That's not my agenda. It's because you don't have to have that to be at peace with your food and body. You don't have to have that, but we can get there if you want. And definitely some practical ways, again, to work with emotional over and under eating. And so I say this is valued at $3,600. All this means is like, we're essentially talking about each week that we meet, we're going to be meeting for 12 weeks. And each week that we meet, there's 2 hours. So we're doing 2 hours of group processing around different client situations. Again, everything you think of, anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, and other things you bring to the table. Because what's great about this is that every single group I've ever done, there's different things. So you'll get to hear recordings from past sessions too, of different kinds of situations. So not only do you get my session, you'll get some supervision, hearing, review from other people's stuff as well, plus the readings, plus everything else. So there's, again, each week is, there's 12 weeks, each week is 2 hours. So we're talking like 24 hours of time with me personally. We have a Facebook group, and so if you are doing any marketing stuff that you want feedback on, you have questions about the recordings, the readings in between the group sessions, just you're in the Facebook group, so you ask me questions. It's not a problem. If you want some business mentoring in that, you have to post that. So post like, hey, can you all get a look at my most recent blog post? Hey, I'm thinking about doing this presentation. Can you guys look at my copy? That's the kind of stuff we'll do. And so, if you're just working with me personally to do all that, that's how much it would be. I want you all to get a taste of what's next, because the way I believe being sort of where it's going to be going, and is slowly going there. I know that they're kind of dragging their feet because people have been doing CBT for a really long time, and it's effective for some clients to either a lot of a degree. I'm not saying it's bad. I do CBT, my nutrition education work is CBT-ish. It's just that it's not helpful for certain populations of our clients. It's helpful about 25% of the way. The other 75%, they need trauma integrated work. And as dietitians and coaches, we need to help know how to regulate. We're not actually doing the trauma recovery work, but we can do a lot of regulating that will help our therapist colleagues get further with our clients more quickly. And so Paula and I, she is a person that I do a lot of collaboration with and training with. And she and I are going, we've been working together for a while now, and we did a little interview about like, I want you all to know what's next and what's up, and to be prepared for as you get these like more foundational skills and it's like easy for you. I want you to know what's next. It's super important to me. And so there's practical advice in here about boundaries, self-care, emotional tolerance, and resiliency. And it makes all the intuitive eating process you're teaching your clients way easier for them and for you. And so I have a couple bonuses as well. So I want you to know how to, if you don't already have an email list and even know what a funnel is, we're going to talk about that, get some training in that. Because every 4 sessions, we're going to kind of like take a break from the nutrition, counseling, decoding stuff, and we're going to talk about some business stuff. If you guys haven't listened to any podcasts I've done this year, I want to think Stephanie Reinhold. I did a interview with her a while ago, and we talked about how like I totally have gotten taken a lot for a lot of money in different kind of coaching things. I want to teach you about watching out for the scammy people, for the business coaches that actually help you, and depending on what stage of business you're in, what makes sense to invest in and maybe what you're not quite there yet. And I just want to be really transparent about that stuff. I help you. I know a lot about business at this point, being in this for so long, but if there's something I don't know, we'll find out together. And I really wanted you all to get focused on your areas of genius and just stop comparing. Some people are great writers. Some people are just excellent with the science, and you need to be rocking that versus trying to be like me, let's say, if you're not like me, which I love video and I like that kind of relating and all that. And so if you aren't like that, then don't force yourself to do things that make you miserable or you don't like. And we're going to talk about that much more. Okay, so there's hours of this kind of stuff. And another bonus, there's a couple more bonuses, so hang tight, is that I want you to learn the art and science of when and how to partner with meal planning, because some people need the containment of a meal plan. They just can't move forward. I had a client earlier this morning, and it's like, without the meal plan, she described it as like, I feel like you were just going to drop me in the middle of the ocean. I was flailing, and I didn't know how to eat, I didn't even know how to make a decision for myself. Some clients are like that. They need some containment because it's almost like in the relational cycle of early development, when they reached out for knowing how to get their needs met, they didn't know how to do that. It wasn't available. And you're going to see that in some of the clients you work with. Now, some clients, we can just do really loosey-goosey, making sure they're getting enough meals and stuff. And we'll talk about the situations we can do that in as well. Again, I want to show you how to do this without going over session and not making all the decisions. Because I'll be honest, meal planning is not my favorite thing to do. But some people need it, but I've learned how to do it, and it be as, honestly, is less overwhelming for me as well. And so I've actually added a new session. So there's actually another bonus in this meal planning section around meal planning with decoding with some semi-starvation study review. I've never done a session like this in 13 years of having all that in one session. It was awesome. So this is going to be in this bonus as well. And so this is all the stuff. So there's basically this first thing, decoding and non-diet counseling skills training process. That's 24 hours. And everything else is all the extras that you're going to be getting with this. So if you did all that individually, it would break down to about $5,000. And I'm doing it today. It's a group program for $1,800. So this program actually starts April 10th. And the early bird is $1,800. After April 5th, it goes up a little bit. And of course, there's payments as well if that's something that makes this more doable for you. And if you're watching this and you've ever worked with me before in terms of this program, if you want to go through it again to get more supervision, get more feedback and stuff, you can go through it for half off, the price that you paid. And if you are one of the first 10 to join now, I'm doing free sessions. Like, it's a full assessment, whether it's a personal assessment for your own, where you're at in your own food and body image healing journey, or is it on your business, you will get right now actionable steps to get going. Like the person I worked with, I think a couple days ago, who's already got in on the early bird, she's already gotten 3 different marketing strategies for her practice. She's got one client now. She's just getting started. I fully expect by the end of the month she'll have some new inquiry calls for sure, because we've kind of tweaked some stuff already. And I want you to be seeing her with compassion, because that's the hallmark. I want to mirror back for you what makes, I personally, I think, a a really rich and robust practice. So I want you to see and hear how it works. Okay, and then you'll get some short and long-term goals about how to use the tools. If you have questions about all the tools we're going to work with, if you talk to me about like what you're already doing in your practice so far, I can tell you quickly right off the bat, like, hey, you're going to want to be using this and really pay attention to this module and these kind of that tools, because this is going to be your main place of practice. And we're going to also do a mastermind about 3 or 4 weeks after, probably 3 weeks, maybe 4, depending on how y'all want to work together, because I'm flexible with things. We're going to be meeting afterwards, just kind of as an after, how we all doing, a month after, how the tool's working for you, what's your questions, that kind of stuff. And so, I know just like with our clients that we put our full commitment into this every day, that if we keep working on our craft and our practice, and we keep working on our marketing, we're going to get some results. And we're going to improve our lives, we're going to improve other people's lives. And I want you to resource yourself. I don't want you to be a burnout, feeling overwhelmed, I'm not making any money coach or dietitian. And I'll be honest, if you start to get started with this, and it's just, you do all the assignments, you participate in everything, you show up for everything, it's 3 months. If you go through the first 2 and you're like, I did everything and this is just still not working for me, I'll just full refund, no problem. So the reason I'm offering this is because I want to see you succeed. I want you to be a person who in your lifetime, in your practice, you get to see thousands of people living free of obsession and internalized fat phobia, living more fully, raising body positive kids, influencing the people around you to eat, live, and move more authentically. And so I 100% believe this program can help you do that. And if this resonates with you, here's the link to get even more information that I probably couldn't rattle off tonight about the program. Make sure you screenshot this so you have the link. You can, make sure you have it if you're interested to learn more about it. Of course, I'm open to you if you want to do a call with me to get more detail about how it'll help you. I'd be happy to hop on the phone for a few minutes to do that with you. My email address is tracybrownrd@gmail.com if you want to do that as well. So remember, again, this is 24 hours. So when I say 24 hours, I mean we do 2 hours a week. So it's not just like a quick 1 hour, everybody gets 5 minutes. We're doing a lot of processing. There's going to be, and I didn't really mention this. Oh my gosh, I didn't mention this. I have a full folder of all my forms. So my initial assessments, my HIPAAs, my all my assessments, the decoding sheets, food journals, compassion worksheets, all kinds of stuff. So I forgot to tell you guys this. Sorry. It should be in the bonus. Like all my handouts that I regularly use, I'm routinely making new ones, so they'll be put in there as well. And all this good stuff. So $1,800, or so if you actually divide 18 by 24, you can figure out how much that is per session. It's pretty low, actually. But again, you can be the judge of that. Okay, so if you're like me, you love the deeper work and you want to be satisfied with clients and you want to support your family. And if you're, I do this program because I want to teach all the not very good employees out there in the world to be like me and be in charge because I'm a terrible employee. I'm meant for private practice and being an entrepreneur. And if you resonate with that, all this stuff is up your alley. And yeah, if you want to join with like-minded people, we have a lot of fun. We have fun. It's deep. We laugh. We cry. People teach me stuff. It's a really amazing time. So here, and I think it's everything you didn't learn in school plus some. Okay. So here again, here's the link if you're interested. And just remember, I know you're here because you want to teach people how to trust their bodies, their food, and help them become their own food and body experts. You want to help them leave behind their fear about health. And you all need to know how to decode I feel fat and I got to eat, because those moments will help you teach it. It's so amazing to watch people feel like they have something that nobody else does. Nobody else knows how to manage, when they're overstressed, they might overwork or they might binge watch TV. They don't know how to decode this, but I can use this skill to decode what my hungers are in life. My hungers for food, but for play, love, connection, boundaries, speaking my truth. It's cool. And I want you to understand how to build a practice. And this just takes focus and consistency. And you don't have to have a bunch of business training. I don't have a bunch of business training. I've learned by experience, by trial and error, by tons of mistakes, and I want to save you some time and probably money as well. Okay, and I promise I'm gonna answer the questions that have been, I know I'm keeping you all along. I thank you for staying with me. Lastly, I want you to be able to get emails like this, because this is the way I do my sessions, is that this is what Kathy said. And I run a group called When Women Stop Hating Their Bodies. And she said, Tracy opened her heart and walked me gently through my narratives, my feelings, my thoughts. Her prompts helped me discover places I didn't recall they had buried. She guided me through what would have been a winding path had I gone it alone, but she helped me take a more direct route to what was troubling me and then what I could have done that would have been better for me. And she's invested in my growth. So whether you're my client, you're a dietitian or a coach, that's why I did this webinar. That's why I do this training. Because it took a long time to put all this together. But I think it's that important, and I want everybody to have these skills. So, all right, I want to work with you. So if you're ready to learn how to decode this stuff, join me. Now I'm going to look at these. I've got 2 chats here. No, okay. Okay, good. So Michelle, she asked, just curious, when you say you typically work with clients for 6 months, what is the frequency of that, weekly or biweekly? I would say in the first 6 months, it's usually weekly. I typically find that I work with people weekly for about a year. And after that mark, it starts to go down to like every other week. That usually is the case. Now, sometimes it might drop down to like less. Sometimes it's weekly, every other week, maybe 30 minutes. I mean, that's rare that it goes to those shorter sessions. But thanks for asking that question. It's really good. I do have some clients right now that I work with bi-weekly as well. So I also offer packages that people work with me once a week, and they get full access like texting support and all that kind of stuff. So what day and time is live? So I'm flexible about that. Right now it's scheduled for Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern. However, when I work with people who are overseas in different countries, I work with people from England, Ireland, Australia that I've been a part of these groups as well, and I adjust it. So basically, everybody's going to get signed up who wants to do it. And then if we have some people who are in really conflicting time zones, we find a time that mutually works for everybody. And I'm even willing to move the day if it makes sense so that everybody can meet. Because I want everybody coming live if at all possible, because it makes the experience richer. We learn more from each other. To have a good time, a good time learning as well. So right now it's tentatively Wednesdays, 10 a.m. Eastern, and it goes for 2 hours. Now, if we need to move that, because again, time zones and all that kind of good stuff, we will. We're going to make it work. So I hope those answers those questions if you stayed on. So I appreciate that. All right, let's get through this last little slide here. Oh, here's the link. So anybody who wants to write this link down, click on it now, all that good stuff. Let me see. I'm trying to get your question back up. Thank you all so much for hanging in there. Okay, I'm coming from working with eating disorders in a residential level of care. I'm interested in learning how to manage clients in outpatients. And yes, I've worked in outpatient for 13 years. I've also worked with inpatient and IOP level people. So I can help you transition from that mindset. Outpatient work is definitely different because you have more flexibility. Personally, I think it's way more fun. You can do a lot more with clients. You can go for walking sessions. You can go out to lunches. You can sit on the floor. You can do all kinds of good stuff. So yes, this program would be beneficial for you because you have a lot more. In fact, one of the things that always really bugged me about residential level care is that sometimes they only give you 30 minutes. Like, please, that's not enough time for a non-diet decoding skills dietitian to like do good work. Made me crazy, which is why I couldn't hack inpatient care. So it didn't last long because it's like, I want to do deep work, and that structure didn't allow that. So if that's something you're really hungry for, this program will teach you how to do it. So thank you for asking that question. It was awesome. All right, so yeah, this may be our last slide. So if you are curious about this, go check the link. If you are like, I'm on the fence, I need to talk to you about it a little bit more, please don't wait. It starts April 10th. We've got a couple weeks here before it gets started for you to make your decision. I only do this live once a year now. I used to do it 2 or 3 times a year. Now I just do it once because I'm focusing on creating my trauma integrated skills the kind of part two of this, like, really know how, I want dietitians and coaches to know how to navigate when you are seeing regulation issues or attachment issues. Your job isn't to treat that, but to be part of the treatment team for that. With people who have more often like you're going to run into developmental trauma or complex trauma, and not as much shock trauma. I'm just sharing that with you because that's what I'm working on, why I'm not offering this more often. And so I highly recommend, if you want to do this work live with me, you do it now, because I will do it again. It's just I'm not going to do it again this year. So I hate for you to wait another year to go by and not have this as part of your toolkit, all these skills. So I think that's it for tonight. Are there any more questions? I appreciate so many of you. I know it's, useful. I made it way long. I appreciate you hanging with me though. So if anybody has any more questions, pop it in real quick before I hop off. Thank you all so much for watching and hanging in there with me. And I will hopefully talk to you all really soon. I wish you all the best of luck in your practices, your own personal growth work, in your business. And I want to see you all out there succeeding and doing your genius. So thank you all so much. I deeply appreciate it. And take care.